Hi, today I'm going to be walking you through the Breakout box kernel code provided by Kansas Corn STEM. Hi, my name is Jessica Sadler, and I'm a 6th grade science teacher and lead teacher for Kansas Corn STEM. Today, we're going to be going over the Breakout box kernel code. Let's get started. If you've not done a Breakout box before, it's a really great idea on your locks to have a colored piece of tape. It doesn't matter what color or pattern, so that way when your students are putting in the answers to their locks, they will come out correctly. You can tell right here there's a small silver line, but sometimes that's not great enough, so it's a good idea to have a little indicator right there so they know where to begin putting the combination in from. It's also really nice to give 2 hint cards. I typically give these to students who might need a job or a role to continue to be successful within the Breakout box. So I will give one to one to another, and then when the groups decide they may use a hint, everybody has to go to that student, come up with the idea of what kind of hint they want, and then ask the teacher. It's a really nice way to help everybody feel included. When we start a Breakout, you're going to read the story to them, and as soon as the story is finished, that is when I would start the timer, 30 to 45 minutes, depending on your class periods. The story sounds like this. Farming your main crop this year has been really tough. Looking at your crop compared to your neighbors, you can see there is room for improvement in your management practices. Unsure what to do, you begin talking with a nearby neighbor and farmer about their corn. They are willing to help you out, but you need to make sure that you have a good knowledge of corn before starting. It's time to show what you know before it's too late. We're going to begin with the smaller lock from the Breakout set. This one, you're going to have these clue cards placed inside, closed, and it'll be locked with the key lock. Once that's happened, this can really be placed wherever in the room you would like it to be. Okay? The clues that are inside of here, once students are able to get that open, these are going to be what unlock your 4-digit word lock. Or excuse me, 5-digit word lock. Okay? Once they get inside, you'll spread the cards out. And there is a clue card within this small box. It says, what type of corn is referred to as corn on the cob? Ideally, what you would like for your students to do is take the titled cards, as well as the imaged cards, and have them laid out for themselves. Once that takes place, they should come up with the answer that sweet would be the kind that is referred to as corn on the cob. They'll take their lock and spin the dials until sweet shows up on the lock, and then it should pop open. And this lock will be on the main box. Next locks, both of these, this is the 3-digit and the 4-digit lock. These will come off using the Explore Corn info sheet. This can be hidden or laid out on a table easily. It's really up to you and your students. Both of these locks will be on the main box. As students are looking through the information listed on this sheet, 7,000 is the code that is going to take off the 4-digit lock. Something that's really important about these 2 locks in particular, you want to make sure the students are putting the code in these circled spaces on the edges. Many of them, it's natural to try to put it in on one of these flat sides, and they'll have the wrong answer, or the right answer, but if they're not putting it in here, it will show up as wrong, and that can get frustrating. As they continue working and looking, they will also find that 600 kernels of corn per ear is going to be what takes off the 3-digit lock. Exact same setup, slightly smaller. That 600 will need to go in these 3 circles on this side of the lock to be successful. Okay. To remove the key lock from the small box, you are going to be using the corn graphic, and you are going to be using an invisible ink pen, as well as a black light, all provided in your kit. What I like to do is look at all the options that are on this sheet and decide what I have or what is easy for me to get into my classroom. It's completely up to you. A box of taco shells could do it, bar of soap, popcorn sitting on the side, truly whatever works best for you and your students. If I have a group of students who tend to be fast solvers and thinkers of things, I will pick an item that it seems natural that it's in my classroom. Like I might go in and think that it might be normal if I had a soap bar in there. I might tape the key to one of the soap dispensers in my classroom. I might tape it underneath one of the hand soap bottles. I might bring in a new bottle that's a refill bottle, something that doesn't look very unnatural to them. If it's a group that might need a little bit more assistance, I might pick a more obvious item and tape the key to that. That way it's easier for them to be like, that looks funny, and start to investigate and check that. It's just a great consideration. It's really up to you and your students, whatever's best for you. When that key lock comes off, that will be how they get to the clues that are in the smaller box to continue the breakout. Something about the black light when we're doing that clue, again, if you have students who are fast solvers, I will often take the batteries out and hide those as an additional challenge. So the students find the flashlight and then they turn it on and they're like, it's broken. And then they end up discovering the batteries aren't in it. So it sends them off for an additional kind of search, which can again give students an extra role and something to do. We're now going to talk about the directional lock. And here's what I like to do for this one. It's up to you. These envelopes right here are going to have, for the most part, south, northeast, west, and midwest directions on them. A few days before I know I'm going to do the breakout, I go ahead and hang these up in their correct cardinal spaces. That way it's something that becomes natural to the room. Then when we do the breakout a few days later, the students don't necessarily think, I'm going right to that spot. It feels comfortable to them. Within the Midwest envelope, you are going to have this set of corn vegetation stage cards tucked within and closed up. Again, this will be taped wherever you would prefer it. You're also going to have these two graphics out. One is Corn for Grain 2017, production by county for selected states. And you will have the 2018 U.S. corn production by state list here. These are a little bit of a red herring, but I like to leave them out there because it keeps students looking at them, guessing, reading the information, and they spend a lot of time and good energy learning information from both of these, but technically this might not be where their clue comes from. On your board somewhere, you'll want to have the question, what region is corn mainly grown in? When students have the answer to that, that will lead them to the Midwest envelope. And that is how they get to these vegetation cards. Once they have the cards, you'll have them spread them out. And they will also see that there are now arrows on these cards, meaning that they do have to be put into a certain order. You have one that doesn't have an arrow on it. That's just to keep the integrity of the cards, as well as it is a step that shouldn't be left out. On the lock, to solve, you'll see that the arrows are right, up, left. Okay. Then we have down, right again. And then obviously this card would be in this center space. Once they have this in the correct order, they'll go back again to that colored piece of tape we talked about earlier. They'll put in that code for themselves and this lock will come off. Something else about these locks, sometimes you might want to encourage students to give a slight push in and then a tug, and they open a little bit more efficiently. And then we have our 5-digit color lock. With this corn graphic, the many uses of corn. For this, you'll need this poster size. I like mine laminated. It's not required, but it is something that can be kind of helpful to your students, okay? You will also have all of these smaller laminated pieces. Some of them are quite tiny, like this one. It says soup. What I like to do is when I cut them out, I leave a little extra lamination on it. It's clear so they can still see through it, but it helps me keep up with it a little bit easier because that's a pretty tiny piece. What they'll do is they will look at this graphic. The graphic has been changed into black and white, and the pieces you can see are in color. So you'll want your students to have that conversation of where do these pieces go? It doesn't really matter where they start as long as it goes into the right place. So I might start with this livestock piece. I get a good clue that that belongs there because I see animals right here. That probably also clues me into this looks like livestock to me. I would also want to add that piece into that section. And then it seems like I still need an additional piece. And when I look at it, it says more than 1/3 of all corn grown in the US is used to feed farm animals such as pigs, beef cows, dairy cows, and chickens, which matches the images that are right here. So I would lay that in that box up there. Okay, and then I would proceed in a similar fashion. When I go to blue, I can also get a clue that a lot of these seem like food, which is probably the main title. Then I have the answer of soup. Again, that's that extremely tiny piece. I have a larger rectangular piece that says corn pops, corn flakes, corn crunch. Corn is such an important part of a balanced breakfast. Many cereals put it right in their name. That would be placed there. I have beverages, and I also have salad dressings. I would move on to corn being used in things that are fun. Over here we've got ceramics, crowns, book bindings, paints, and dyes. One of the images for the smaller one is glue. The larger card says corn is commonly used to make dextrin, a binding compound used to help fireworks burn properly. Now that adds a whole new meaning to the word popcorn. Would place that in its space. We have an exports section, which is orange. And then my last two sections that have absolutely nothing in them would be green, and that's fuel. And then the fuel card also says, getting from point A to point B sometimes takes a little C. Corn, that is. Ethanol is a high-octane, low-carbon, corn-based fuel that is often blended with gasoline for use in a variety of vehicles. I would place that into this final rectangle. Once all the pieces are placed, hopefully your students will see there is one orange, meaning on the key colored lock, the first place should be an orange piece in the first spot. As I continue to look, I now notice there are only 2 greens. So in the second part on my lock, I would rotate it to the green section. I continue looking, there are 3 yellows. Then I would continue moving, and I see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blues, so I can go ahead and put that in at the end. And I will also notice here that I have 4 reds, fun, glue, chalk, and then that larger information square. So that should be in my middle section. Once those are correctly put in order, a little push, a little tug, lock comes right off. Something about this particular breakout, these 5-digit locks, if you will, you'll notice that there were 3 used as the clue. If you have multiple breakouts, you'll want to grab one of these 5-digit locks from a different breakout. If you unfortunately don't have more than one breakout box, what you can do is decide a clue that is what I would consider bonus clue. And if that is not one that you want your students to do, you can simply not have that clue be a part of the breakout. For instance, I just removed the color lock, but these 2 would be in my box and ready to go. This would be the way that kernel code takes place. There are also discussion questions that you could ask of your students within the lesson. A great way to do that are these reflection cards. These do come in your kit. They cover everything from SEL topics like what made you a great leader, what made you a great collaborator, what did your group do to be incredibly effective. There are also questions that relate more to the content, and you have the option of creating your own questions as the facilitator, which might be a great idea to cover some of the topics they should be able to answer. This is Kernel Code Breakout Box provided by Kansas Corn STEM.